Long. I think my wife has a boyfriend. I have been in a marital relationship for nearly 13 years now, and my world revolves around my two adorable daughters. However, things haven't always been smooth sailing for us. 2 years after our wedding and after the birth of our first child, my wife got involved with a coworker. Despite my suspicions, she became adept at hiding her affair, making it challenging for me to catch her in the act. Eventually, the situation fell apart when the guy's girlfriend, who was also the mother of his newborn, contacted me. Interestingly, during this affair, my wife became pregnant with our second daughter. We decided to move out of town, hoping for a fresh start. Unfortunately, 2 years later, my wife had another affair with my best friend. This time, it wasn't as intense, and it was relatively easy to call it off since he was a sleazebag. I tried to forgive my wife and move past the hurtful incident. However, just 2 years later, she was at it again, this time exchanging emails and pictures with a married man who had multiple duets. Shortly after, she had another fling with a coworker. During each of these instances, my wife would justify her actions, citing reasons such as my inability to measure up to her expectations or that our love had fizzled out, even though it was a one-sided claim. While it's been about 5 years since her last affair, I have struggled with anger and trust issues. We were doing well until recently when she denied any inappropriate behavior, but I keep discovering evidence that contradicts her statements. It has left me confused and uncertain about how to deal with the situation. I had a hunch that something was off when this guy began spending a lot of time at our workplace. Granted, it was part of his job, but something about his presence set off alarm bells in my head. My suspicions were heightened when my wife and I split up for the day, and she was supposed to take our youngest to a particular location. She claimed to be too tired and was going to head straight home, so my daughter ended up with her phone. When my wife found out, she decided to come to the location after all to retrieve the phone. However, I made a wrong turn and ended up taking longer than anticipated. By the time we arrived, my wife had called twice, asking if we were still coming. When I finally showed up, I made a comment about who might be calling her, and my wife got angry and stayed mad at me for the afternoon. More recently, about 2 weeks ago, my wife went away to a conference. Upon her return, I happened to have her phone and decided to check the call log. To my surprise, I found that on the last day of the conference, she had made a 35-minute call to the same guy from work. Initially, I tried to convince myself that it might have been work-related, so I didn't say anything. However, the nagging feeling in my gut persisted, and the next morning, I asked her if she had spoken to him that week. She replied with a resounding no. That's when I decided to confront her about the call log. I let her know that I had seen the 35-minute phone call and asked her to explain. She nervously rambled about all the work-related things they had discussed, but I stopped her mid-sentence and told her that I didn't want to hear anymore. The situation left me feeling confused and unsure of how to proceed. After a week or so, I am still feeling very angry about the situation. I had a conversation with my wife where she kept denying any wrongdoing. However, I asked her if she could guarantee that she had not been deleting text messages and calls, to which she admitted that she had been deleting them, but claimed that they were innocent and that she was afraid of making me upset. I'm struggling to make sense of all of this. While I find it hard to believe that all of the cover-ups are as innocent as she claims, what if she is telling the truth? I have come too far to just let everything go based on mere suspicion. Moreover, given our situation, uprooting our family and leaving is not a clear option. It would be a very messy process, and I would likely end up being painted as the bad guy for a while until she comes to her senses. Despite everything, I would endure anything to be with my kids. I could really use some advice or encouragement on how to handle this situation. It's a difficult and complex issue that has no easy solution. Redditor's reactions, story 2 after Redditor 1. It's clear that you've been through a lot in your relationship with your wife, and it's admirable that you've tried to keep your family together. However, it's important to consider the impact that this situation is having on your children. Even if you think you're hiding your anger and resentment, kids are perceptive and can sense when something is wrong. It sounds like you've been cheated on and walked on multiple times, and you've tried to forgive and move forward each time. However, it's important to consider whether your wife's behavior is really going to change, and whether it's worth staying in a relationship where you feel disrespected and unsupported. Leaving your wife is not an easy decision, especially when children are involved, but sometimes it's the best choice for everyone involved. It's important to consult with a therapist and a lawyer to help you navigate the emotional, and legal aspects of the process. Your children's well-being should be a top priority. Joint custody is often a viable option, and if you present a clear plan for how you can care for your children, there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to maintain a strong relationship with them. It's understandable to feel scared or unsure about what the future holds, but it's important to prioritize your own happiness and well-being, as well as your children's. Best of luck as you navigate this difficult situation. Redditor 2. I'm counting 4 confirmed affairs in the past and 1 most likely ongoing. She doesn't sound like she has any interest in not sleeping with other guys or breaking your heart. Also, she became pregnant while having an affair. Do I need to say it? Redditor 3. Why do you accept this? Once. Maybe it's worth trying to fix it. Regardless of what the infidelity means to you or your marriage, your wife's reckless behavior puts you and your kids at risk for harm by revenge. Seeking people, criminals, addict, whatever you want to tolerate with infidelity is your business. But your real-world problem is you don't know the danger your kids could be in from their mom's association. Redditor 4. I never buy the idea that a cheater will always cheat again. I amend it to allow for change because people can change. But every time someone cheats with either same person or different people, it becomes more likely they won't change. After 4 confirmed affairs, that woman is habitual and will never stop. In fact, I'm going to say she doesn't love you. She doesn't love you or your kids enough to give them a stable home or just end it and give them a new home. Doesn't help that she keeps picking verifiable losers, which tells you a lot more about this behavior. Story 2. My niece who's 16 just showed me proof that her mommy 40's feast is having an affair. Earlier today, I received a call from my teenage niece who sounded quite anxious and requested me to pick her up for a ride so we could have a talk. As her mother is my sister, and we belong to a big and tight-knit family, my niece has always felt like the younger sister I never had. It's not uncommon for us to go out on life advice, car rides, and talk about things, so her request didn't strike me as out of the ordinary. To my utter surprise, my niece confided in me about a shocking revelation today that left me shaken to my core. She showed me photos of implicit text messages exchanged between my sister and my brother's childhood friend, which could potentially have disastrous consequences for our family's dynamics. It is beyond belief that 2 individuals, who are not only married, but also have families that we are well acquainted with, would engage in such immoral behavior. This has the potential to cause irreparable damage to the relationships within our family, and I'm struggling to come to terms with it. I cannot help but wonder what drove my sister and her friend to engage in such a risky and reckless affair, and the impact that it will have on their respective marriages and children. It is a deeply concerning and distressing situation, and I am left wondering how best to proceed. My mind is flooded with questions, doubts, and fears, and I cannot shake off the feeling that this may just be the tip of the iceberg. It came as a surprise to my niece when her mother, my sister, lied about her work hours last week. She claimed that she would be working late for a few days due to a special event. However, her grandmother later called and was confused as to why she wasn't home, since she had spoken to her earlier that day and was under the impression that my sister would be off work by lunchtime. My niece was rightfully suspicious and decided to investigate, which led her to discover the explicit text messages between her mother and my brother's childhood friend. The fact that her mother lied about her work schedule, coupled with the discovery of the affair, has shaken my niece to her core and left her feeling betrayed by her own family members. It's a truly devastating situation that has the potential to tear our family apart if not handled delicately and with care. It seems that the situation is even more complicated than initially thought. After my niece noticed her mother's odd behavior regarding her work hours, she became increasingly suspicious and decided to take matters into her own hands. She snooped around her mother's phone and was shocked to discover implicit text messages between her mother and my brother's childhood friend, who is also married and has a family we know well. What's more, my niece also found out that her mother had been lying about her whereabouts and had gone out for dinner with this man for 3 nights in a row. She even came home late with gifts and looking unusually nice. My niece's discovery is certainly unsettling, and it is clear that this affair is a loaded gun that could potentially cause great damage to our family. Now that my niece has shared this information with me, I am at a loss for what to do. The situation is complex and delicate, and I'm still reeling from the shock of it all. It's important to tread carefully and handle the situation in a way that minimizes the potential harm to everyone involved. We may need to seek the advice of a professional or a mediator to help us navigate this difficult situation. Advice appreciated. Edit. Wow, there's been a lot of feedback overnight. Thanks for the different perspectives. I'm going to talk to my niece again to make sure I prioritize supporting her because that seems most important, and we'll be confronting this together at some point over the weekend. Wish us luck. Redditor's reactions. Redditor 1. First and foremost, it's important to acknowledge that your niece trusts you and that this situation is not her fault. She came to you in a time of need, and it's important to provide her with support and reassurance. Let her know that you are there for her no matter what happens and that you will do everything in your power to protect her and her well-being. Once you've had some time to process the situation and regain your composure, it's important to take action. One of the first steps should be to contact your sister's husband and inform him of what has been going on. It's important to do so with sensitivity and compassion, keeping in mind that he may be deeply hurt by this news. Be sure to emphasize that you are coming to him out of concern for his well-being and that of your family as a whole. When talking to him, be sure to keep your niece's name out of it. You can simply say that you found out on your own and felt that it was important to inform him of what was going on. This will help to protect your niece's privacy and ensure that she doesn't feel further targeted or vulnerable. It's also important to ensure that your niece receives the support she needs during this difficult time. Consider setting up therapy sessions for her to help her process her emotions and work through any trauma or confusion she may be experiencing. This can be a critical step in helping her to move forward and heal. Finally, it's important to keep in mind that if your niece's father is kept in the dark about the situation, it could lead to further problems down the road. It's important to be honest and transparent with him about what has been going on in order to prevent any future conflicts or misunderstandings. Redditor follow-up. I would also make sure in this case that this is what your niece wants. Don't let her feel like she set off an irreversible process just by consulting you for life advice. Redditor 2. The consequences of your sister's actions have caught up with her, and unfortunately her own daughter is the catalyst. I'd say let your sister know, but also keep reassuring your niece to let her know that no matter what happens, she's not at fault. Redditor follow-up. That's the best bet. Make sure your niece knows that she's got nothing to feel guilty about. But you need to let your brother-in-law know. Redditor 3. You inform the spouses. It's not your call to shelter them from this. You will lose your brother if he finds out you knew about it and didn't tell him. Take your niece to your home and invite both of the betrayed spouses to lunch or dinner and inform them. Let them handle their problem. They might need to collect evidence for their divorce lawyers. Redditor follow-up. Op's sister is married and cheating on her husband with his best friend. Op's brother-in-law is the one who is getting cheated on. So it's more like her sister will be pissed at her for snitching, even though she started this entire ducked-up situation. But I got no love for cheaters, and I agree brother-in-law and ex-best friend's wife need to know so they can decide how to move forward with their lives. Redditor 4. Tell your sister that the two of you are having a girls' night and staying at a hotel. Make sure she understands that poop is about to get real, and then hash it out with her and tell her she needs to come clean and deal with it. Redditor follow-up. Nah. Tell the husband yourself, not your sister. If you tell the sister, it just gives her a chance to form a different story and lie. If you tell him yourself, you at least know that he will get the truth.